when he was so sick in high school, you're really operating on automatic pilot at that point. I don't think we processed a lot of what we went through at the time.
You're kind of maybe just going one day to the next.
You are.
It's a little numb.
You wake up in the morning and go, is there an anvil hanging over my head, over my son's head? What's going to happen today that's going to be not expected? And there was a while there where it just was like, you get sucker punched over and over and over. And I was never understanding why Emmett was handling it so well. I mean, I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but I was like, where's the anger? Where's the why me? Where's the, I'm so sick of being sick. He smiled in the hospital. He played video games. He, had friends come visit him and they would pile up in the bed with him. It was just, and I, honestly, now that we're out of that, he's a sophomore in college, I think he's starting to process it a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jared Bass with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Triumph Every Day, where we discuss the journeys that shape the lives of our guests and how it brought them to where they are today. Today we have one of the OG members of Triumph Strength, Sarah Freeman. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Very special guest with us today. We pried for like 2 years to try and get Sarah on this thing, so we finally snagged her.
Finally shamed me into it.
There you go. So a lot of people do know you already, but maybe just to give people an idea who don't know you, all the millions and millions and possibly billions of people who are listening to this.
I hope so.
Maybe just give a quick rundown of kind of who you are, where you came from,
okay,
and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. I am a transplant to this area. Grew up in Lexington. That's where actually Emmett was born, and we started raising a family. And then moved to North Carolina for a little bit with Joe's job, my husband's job. And that lasted 1.5 years where he was hired away from the company. So it was move. And ended up in northern Kentucky because it was supposed to be the corporate headquarters for his new company, which ended up being in Wisconsin. So we ended up here for no reason, but thrilled to have ended up here because this is home now. Like, we plan on staying, so.
So how did that work? Like, they just didn't have their headquarters here, and then you guys just ended up staying? He got a different job, or?
The headquarters was supposed to be here because the CEO of the company lived here, and it was a new venture, a private equity company, and they ended up having more plants in Wisconsin, so that's where they put the headquarters. So let's just say Joe traveled all week, every week, pretty much since we moved here 8 years ago, going to Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's
a lot of travel.
That is a lot of travel. Lots of Sky Miles. You guys get those?
Yeah. Yeah. Although now he drives almost every week.
Does he really?
Instead of flying. Believe it or not, he can get there in about the same amount of time.
Well, it's funny you say that because it really is, when you really look at the numbers and like how long it takes you to get in and out of an airport.
And your layovers and
Yep.
Probably cheaper.
And money
too, right?
Probably cheaper.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you're spending the time in the car, but if you're going to be, get your favorite podcast on or whatever.
There you go. It's the hotel points he racks up.
Put all your, playlist of, Triumph Every Day on.
That's right.
Binge listen to all of our exciting stories. So that's cool. I didn't know you were from Lexington as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Apparently there's all these things I'm going to learn about you today.
Yeah, I grew up there, but I left there when I was 14. Went off to boarding school in Virginia.
Really?
Really.
So what exactly makes a boarding school different than a regular school?
Went to Virginia and lived there in a dorm starting when I was 14. Went 3 years there.
Was that punishment?
No, it was escape.
Escape?
Yeah. Here's hoping my family's not going to listen to this.
Did your siblings do the same boarding school?
4 of the 5 of us did.
Yeah, I was going to say, before we started, you were talking about being, one of 5. What's where are you at in that?
Number 4, one of the babies.
One of the babies.
Yeah. The oldest sister is the only one that didn't go off to boarding school.
Really?
Yeah. So
what started the boarding school trend? Was that just
something? What bad child?
Yeah.
Started off the trend that you guys ship your kids away?
No bad children. It was it's called Lexington being a little bit of an elite, not in a bad way, but I went to a private school growing up, and it was just kind of the thing. A lot of people did it. I don't really know how to explain it. It was sort of part of our family life.
Huh. It's interesting.
If you wanted to go, you could go, and I wanted to go.
We don't have to get super deep into that, but maybe one or two takeaways from boarding school, so that was age 14 to probably 18-ish.
Yeah, you grow up fast.
Yeah.
You learn to
Is the curriculum
be
relatively
independent.
the same? Like you still get to take gym and do things, or is there
exactly the
anything out
same?
ordinary?
Sports teams, all that.
Okay.
It was an all-female boarding school, but the male counterpart was across the street, so we had co-ed classes. Mixers with other boarding schools. My brother was in boarding school in Virginia at the same time, so I'd see him at mixers and stuff like that. So
Interesting.
yeah, but you grow up fast when you go away at 14.
I
You
feel like you
learn
have
to
Yeah.
take care of yourself.
So you're doing your laundry, you're cooking food, or is it?
No, food was
cafeteria?
provided, but you know, it was in Richmond, Virginia, and you learn how to take a cab back then and just go downtown and go, handle your own money, balance a
that's
checkbook, stuff that I don't think a lot of kids learn until they're
You say
20.
kids. You say kids. I know a lot of adults that don't know how to balance a checkbook.
well, that's
Yeah.
true.
Anymore, you don't.
That's true. When
You
I
don't
married
need to
Joe,
as
he didn't
much,
know
but-
how to balance a checkbook, so
Really?
I took that over. Yeah,
He seems so.
he's super smart and was lazy about that.
There you go. So what's a dynamic like growing up with 5 kids in a family? We have 4, and I know how crazy ours was. I can't imagine adding another.
Best friends. We were really tight. I
Really?
don't know about you guys, but we bonded really closely. And
There wasn't anybody that was beating up the younger one.
oh no, we all beat each other.
Okay, that's good.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm just checking on that.
I'd say my little sister and I were the worst. We drew blood. We fought rough.
Yeah.
And you learn to fight well when you have 2 older brothers too.
Sure.
But they're also, your best friends. So we had kind of a rough growing up. So that's, not to get deep into that, but we bonded over that. We were tight because of that.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason I wanted to go away.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Do you make some lifelong friends at boarding school or anything like that, or is it?
yeah, well,
Was
actually,
everyone, I guess, let me rephrase. Was there anyone from Lexington area, or was it spread throughout, or central, Virginia, wherever you were at?
it was all over the country. Actually,
Yeah.
I had there were a few people from my hometown who went, and we were close while we were there. One girl came home. It wasn't for her.
Ah,
I think
fair
she was
enough.
gone by Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But most of the people I met that I was the craziest about in high school and college were from Alabama. They must just party a lot. They were
Yeah,
fun,
there you
but
go.
yeah, I
Whole
didn't.
time.
I didn't stay close with them. My little sister did. She was at the same boarding school, but we're just different personalities.
Yeah, I was just curious. I just didn't.
I kind of moved on to the
I'm
next phase of
interested.
life.
Yeah, absolutely.
you know?
What was that?
College in Virginia,
Okay.
and another all-female school, and with guys' schools all around. 4 years there, and then came back to Kentucky. Moved back.
What'd you study?
Communications and psychology.
Yeah.
Never used it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of it's a little bit of a trend, honestly. And when you really look at, it's so hard to decide, at that age, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Very few people, I
Right.
think, are
That's why your son is so exceptional, and I find myself becoming jealous of people that are so driven and focused on knowing exactly what they want to do, whether that is really what happens for the rest of their life. We can kind of maybe jump into that a little bit.
Yeah, I never had a clue, and to me, that's a waste of tuition. Not that getting a bachelor's degree was a waste of money.
Sure.
I don't mean that.
It
But
opens up a lot of doors.
yeah, the amount of money it costs to do that.
For sure.
I could have pulled that off at
Right.
a less expensive school.
Yeah, but again, hindsight's always 20/20. You
Yeah.
don't realize going into it that I'll never use this.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
neither Mark or I are in our respective fields per se, but we use the things that
Right.
you pick
For
up
sure,
along the way.
yeah.
So.
When you still communicate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Whether
yeah.
you're,
So
Have to understand people
right,
with
right.
psychology. Yeah.
So you moved back to Kentucky, and where along the way does Mr. Freeman come in?
All right, so I went to
I
work
feel
for my
like it's
dad's.
gonna get a little juicy. I feel like
No.
okay.
All right.
All right. I went to work for my dad's architectural firm, doing office work, and that's where I met him. He was actually a client, which absolutely flipped my dad's shit out that I would date somebody who was a client. He did not like it.
Yeah.
But we met there. We were friends for a couple of years, and then dating other people that we didn't want to stay with, and ended up dating and getting married. It'll be 23 years.
Wow.
November.
Wow.
Well, congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he the first gift he ever gave me, he had come in for lunch, and he went out to lunch with my dad, and he knew I was not your typical girl, and I like to shoot guns, so I came back, and there was this beautifully wrapped package of shotgun shells on my desk. First gift he ever gave
That's
me.
amazing. What's
Yeah,
a
pretty
date
awesome.
with Joe Freeman like?
Our first date, we drove to New York.
Did you really?
Wow.
We did.
Romantic.
He had friends there, and we went cross country, and
But it's not, yeah. So like, and again, when you look at like, oh, we've been friends for a while, so it's not like,
right. So it's
I
not
just
like we
met this
didn't know.
guy
Yeah.
Joe. We're going to New York.
No, yeah, exactly. So we went skiing. That's the one and only time I've ever been skiing, and we got caught in a horrible blizzard and wrecked the car on the way there.
Oh, jeez.
And at the time I was a smoker, and so we wrecked, and he took the side mirror off, and I was like, well, so I got out of the car on the side of the highway, lit up a cigarette, and he still was like, I knew then I was going to marry you. Any girl who can just have a wreck and roll with it.
Right.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
Make for a good story.
So going from a large family of 5 to basically one child.
One child.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. So was that kind of planned? How did that work with?
No, it's
with-
just sort of
with
how
Emma?
nature
Yeah.
took its course. Yeah, we would have
I-
had more.
You would have one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Although I got a good one, so if
You
I had
got-
to
you
stop
do-
with one.
You do have really good ones.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Emmett for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because he's a pretty extraordinary.
Favorite subject for me.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a pretty extraordinary kid. I mean, we've known him now for numerous years. So
Yeah.
it's been.
Pretty much since you
Probably
started coming.
6
you know?
years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's been pretty amazing to
Yeah.
see his journey because it's been some peaks and valleys for sure.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so
A lot of valleys.
He's tough.
But,
He's a tough kid.
Yeah.
maybe, and I don't want to like push on you too much, but maybe if you want to talk a little bit about kind of stuff that Emmett's been through.
Yeah, no, I don't mind talking about it at all. So he was at the beginning of high school into middle school. He got sick around Christmas time, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. And after some extensive testing at Children's Hospital, he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis. And from there, it's a pretty serious disease where your body attacks your digestive system. And so he was super sick. And they have all those drugs you've probably heard about on TV, Humira, the scary biologic meds. For about 2.5 years, tried him on those. 2 severe reactions, ambulance trips, life-threatening pancreatitis. It was
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
terrifying. So at that point,
Yeah, for a little while there, it's like we were getting updates, and none of them were seemed like they were ever good news.
no, it was seriously traumatic. Couple of years, and he ended up being a candidate for surgery. So long story short, his junior year in high school, they removed his colon, and he had an ostomy bag
Right.
in high school. And within 1 year, 9-month period, he had 3 major operations between 6 and 8 hours
Wow.
to reconstruct him inside and then reconnect so he wouldn't be dependent on an ostomy bag. So he flew through those operations.
He flew through those operations, I think, due to his. I think he had a little bit higher level of health than maybe some kids that would go
Right,
into that.
right.
Especially going into a serious operation like that. I mean, he worked his butt off.
So he started training with Chris Limmel. And Chris's goal was to work with him and do what he could do, even though he was really sick and having constant flares, just to get him strong. Strong as you can be,
Yeah.
working with what you've got to work with.
And there's some serious science behind that. You hear it from time to time about, people who walk away from what would rather be a serious accident, a car accident or something like that, or have a medical issue that they'll fly through because their previous level of health was higher than the normal person.
Right. He wanted to be as strong as he could be, and
So
he was athletic before this happened.
Yeah.
He made the freshman soccer team at Ryle.
And he's still very
and
athletic.
he was playing that soccer even flaring on the disease. So it was kind of crazy. But
So maybe a little bit of a twofold question for you, and take your time on both. But maybe because you and Emmett are obviously very close. I think I don't say closer than most mother and son, but like I see you guys together, and it's just, you are a very close mother and son. And it's
yeah,
really
we have
cool
a
to
pretty
see.
unique relationship
Yeah.
from him being sick, I think.
Maybe just talk a little bit about what that's like from a mother's perspective, especially with her only son, and maybe the things that he's told you about his perspective. Maybe, I can't imagine going through that through high school when it's such formative years. I think a lot of people still carry things from high school because it's so impactful when you're growing up.
Yeah.
What was that kind of like for you, maybe for him?
When he was so sick in high school, you're really operating on automatic pilot at that point. I don't think we processed a lot of what we went through at the time.
You're kind of maybe just going one day to the next.
You
kind of.
are.
It's a little numb.
You wake up in the morning and go, is there an anvil hanging over my head,
Right.
over my son's head? What's going to happen today that's going to be not expected? And there was a while there where it just was like, you get sucker punched over and over and over. And I was never understanding why Emmett was handling it so well. I mean, I know that sounds like
really was.
crazy thing to say, but I was like, where's the anger? Where's the why me? Where's the, I'm so sick of being sick. He smiled in the hospital. He played video games. He, had friends come visit him and they would pile up in the bed with him. It was just, and I, honestly, now that we're out of that, he's a sophomore in college, I think he's starting to process it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to hit him how hard high school was and how he wished he could have just been normal,
Right.
like everybody else. And, I think he thought, it's just whining if I feel bad for what I've been through, but it's okay to feel bad for going through that,
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have blamed him for feeling a little bit bad, but that was the thing that stood out to me through the whole process was, here's a kid that's been through a lot, clearly, and anytime I saw him, he had a smile on his face. And he was just like, hey, Mark, how's it going? Just very always polite and very interested in what's going on around the gym, and, always apologetic if he's like, well, I might have to modify something, or, I might not be able to.
Right.
And it's like, Emmett, man, like, you're here.
Right.
Let's just get some.
Right.
It's like
whatever
we have
can
trouble
do.
getting people in on a regular
Right.
basis. And
Right,
Emmett's-
who don't have
Emmett's-
anything
Right.
wrong with them.
Yeah.
But it was just always high spirits, and I remember following, his journey and learning some of those details about friends coming and playing video games. And I know Chris was really close with him and working with him one-on-one, which was awesome for honestly both of them.
He and Becca cooked for us in the hospital.
Yeah,
Brought us good food.
Yeah, that's
Chris
what-
played video games with Emmett. It was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of speaks to that family element that we kind of embody here with, members. And some people, can be surface level kind of members, and other people we can dig really deep with. And it's like I've got to know, we've all got to know, you, your husband, and obviously Emmett over the years and whatnot. But
Well, you all gave Emmett a sense of normalcy in a period of his life where it wasn't very normal. I mean, he would come in here and, he would call Chris his older brother and, being an only child, and he could come in here and feel like he was like everybody else.
Right.
My God, he worked out with an ostomy bag in here. And Chris was willing to deal with that. You all were all willing to deal with that. That's
I remember
that's
the,
huge as a mom for me, if you're asking how I felt as a mom with that question.
Yeah.
The support he got, community, it was like priceless. I don't know if you guys really know how much that meant to us as family, but
That's
and
awesome.
you remember the hero.
Yep. Yeah, we did a little hero workout for Emmett.
Gosh.
Oh, man, that
And then again, like,
was great.
I guess maybe listening to this, if you're, it wasn't like, oh, we need to do this to, like, put this on social media or something. It was like, holy crap, we need to.
Doing the right thing is always the right thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was
it's
one of those
just
things where
facts.
we wanted to do something for someone we saw who was, having a tough time.
Because he would have did it for us. That simple.
Um,
but yeah, maybe we to talk about maybe his progress now. Obviously, I went through that.
Yep.
And then now, like you said, he's a sophomore, and I was saying, he's a driven kid. He knows what he wants to be, and you can fill us in on some where he's at right now.
Yeah, he's doing really well right now. I mean, he's had some residual health effects, but they're nothing out of the ordinary. But he's been coping with that in college, which is, frustrating to say the least. Yeah, he's at EKU down in Richmond, a 4-year aviation program, becoming a pilot.
Very cool.
Just passed last week. He can fly alone now.
Wow.
Or take any of us up.
And you've flown with him before?
I went on the very first, the Discovery flight he went on.
Wow. What was that like?
Fantastic. I would go anytime. Love flying.
Is it scary knowing your son's at the helm?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll always be my baby, and he's a grown man now.
Right.
But, he's still my baby.
He's more than a grown man.
Yeah,
He's quite tall.
Yeah.
The
We call him the baby giraffe.
The baby giraffe. He's no longer a baby giraffe.
Got to be the
I
tallest
know.
pilot probably at the school. He's 6'6".
He has to fold his legs, between 6'5" and 6'6".
Yeah.
So to fold his legs up to get in that little bitty cockpit and fit, but when he's flying 747s, it'll be a little roomier.
A little bit roomier.
Yeah.
I'm sure if he's flying like a Cessna or something like that right now, it's just like,
Oh yeah.
here we are.
If he's on a 3-hour cross country, he gets out and says, "Oh my God, my body aches."
Be hitting us up for some mobility.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's been just an inspiration to watch. And when he talked about like smiling and things like that when he was going through all this, I think that's just something to be said about his personality. Even though it sounds like he's processing it a little bit more now, because how hard college probably is. Like you said, he never got to have that kind of not that people skate through high school.
But it's a carefree time in a lot of ways before college.
Because your parents are taking care of just about everything. You just have to go to school, and maybe you got a part-time job or something, but it's not nearly as stressful as making sure you're ready for all these exams and tests, and you also have to do laundry and make sure you're eating. And
Right, and when he was in high school, he was, not to be like all gloom and doom or anything, but his 16th birthday, he was in a hospital bed. That's not what you usually do on your 16th birthday.
Right.
But I feel like, looking forward for him, I think that he will probably, just seeing the person that he is, he's going to internalize that and kind of live life to its fullest. And I think he's already doing that.
He appreciates things a lot. Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they have to wait until they have some sort of life-altering thing happen to them for them to realize that oh wow, I should really live this a little bit more. And I don't take this out of context, but in a way, in a very weird way, he's lucky that he had that early on, because he will live the rest of his life to the absolute fullest.
No, I don't take that in a weird way. You're the sum and substance of your experiences, good and bad, and they shape you and they mold you. And he's an incredibly resilient young man because of what he's been through.
And I think too, it's one of those,
empathy for people is huge.
It's one of those things that you're gonna, you come to these crossroads in life, and it happens almost daily. You can either go down a negative path, or you can go down a positive path, and he's just one of those people that will constantly go down a positive path.
You're right.
It's a cognate, choice.
Yeah.
It's a cognizant choice, and that's awesome.
So I want to go back just a little bit before, kind of prior to all this stuff was happening in Emmett. You were a member, but you were almost kind of one foot out the door, in a sense. You were kind of I don't really know if this is what I want to do as far as fitness and things like that. Maybe just talk a little bit about kind of what the process was for you to come back in, and now what we consider, one of those foundational members of our community.
So I was a runner, and thought, oh, that's just who I am, what I was going to do. And Melanie Proctor was the doctor that we hooked up with, and she's been instrumental in getting a lot of people here, and finally talked me into it. And but I had never lifted weights. I never did any of that. It wasn't part of my identity. I was like, oh, I'm just a girl. It's kind of what I thought, and didn't think I'd ever love it. But the more I did it, the more I loved it. And it's not just the exercise, though. It's truly, I mean, I know everybody says this on here, but it was the community. That's what got me back in here and kept me here. The friends, like I have two big communities in my life besides family, my church and my CrossFit box, you know?
Yep.
Like we've talked about moving a million times. My one criteria to Joe is I have to be within a reasonable commuting distance of Triumph, or I'm not moving there.
Right.
Yeah.
Period.
It's awesome.
And we definitely appreciate that. And I think too, early on, to basically our detriment, we didn't really know exactly what our identity was at Triumph. We kind of came in from a different atmosphere, and you guys had to teach us what community was. Like we didn't really understand it. So
you all were in a tough position. I mean, you bought it and took it over from somebody that was close with a lot of the members. So you all had a tough road to hoe.
Transition period.
It was, but
and like I said,
you did great.
We didn't really understand what that sense of community was for this place. We had to learn it from you all, which we're very gracious for, because it's shaped both of our lives, because it's definitely changed perspective.
And we're still learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Always learning.
Daily
You guys are
learning.
Still teaching us, but yeah, it's evolving. I mean, obviously this Saturday we have a 5-year anniversary, so it's pretty.
I know, it's exciting.
Pretty special. We're
very
excited
exciting
about it.
Yeah.
And with all of the members having so much going on, it's like so many people have been apologetic with like, I'm really sorry I can't make it. It's like I got this going on, and that's just our community though. Like on the weekends, it's like
most gyms would never have people wanting to make
A
excuses
free-for-all.
to the owners
They
to
would
say
just not
can't be
come.
there.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be there.
It's special though.
Yeah, we appreciate everything you've done for us as far as, again, just being supportive. So kind of speaking on the sense of community, we had obviously a very, very dark time as a community in 2016, obviously with Crystal and Bobby.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And again, for those of you guys who don't know, it's kind of been in and out of the news. I know that there was a trial recently. Anyways, Crystal and Bobby went down to check on some property on the July 4th weekend in 2016, and the person who was renting the property decided to take both of their lives and kind of hide their bodies. But for a while, a very long while, it was almost
Seemed like forever.
3 months before they found Crystal.
She was found second.
Yeah, she was found second.
I want to say it took a little bit longer than that, but
Yeah. So
somewhere in the 6-month thing.
I know you were very, very you were close to Crystal and became a pretty integral part in searching and things like that. What was that? Why? I guess why did you feel the need that you should be such a big part of like trying to find her?
Well, Crystal and I got to be friends one day, really. To me, this was the pivotal moment. I think it was the morning class, like 9:30, and I had said, make sure you come back, you're fun to work out with. And she told me that she had been intimidated or gotten her feelings hurt or something by somebody in another class, which doesn't matter, whatever that was. But she said, you just make me feel welcome. And there was something about that moment where I just knew we were going to be friends. And you talk about somebody who had been through some life challenges.
It had a wildly positive outlook.
Yes, like Emmett.
Like you should not be that happy of a person with the things that she's been through.
Right.
Like hit and run, left for dead on the side of the road by a drunk driver. Lacerations to her body, breaking her back off a horse. And things that came out a little bit later about she was just never able to have her own children, and so
Right.
Bobby came along, and she's basically being the mother figure for his children and things like that, and just someone who just embodied positivity.
Yeah, what's not to love, you know? And she was pretty private at first, and then as she got to know people, she started talking about the challenges, and you just can't help but form a bond with somebody when they're willing to go deep and share, their deepest hurts and pains of life. And
yeah, isn't that amazing?
And that's what happens in CrossFit. It just does.
Yeah.
I don't want to just skate over that point you made at the beginning of that was you guys kind of had that moment And it's like, isn't it amazing that just in a moment, like when you have that connection with another person, it's like you don't really know what's kind of forming there.
Right.
But obviously that was huge in her being in a, you basically integrating her into our community, and then her being able to share her story and develop obviously a relationship with several of the members of our gym. But you also could have not taken that advantage of that situation, and now
Right.
who knows, maybe
We
she
could have
would've-
left the gym at the gym.
exactly
Right.
who she could have maybe had that rude or whatever you want to say that altercation was with that other person, and that might have been her impression of, oh, this is what Triumph is. And and that's kind of a testament to who you are, Sarah, and just how welcoming you are to people that you don't even know, and being so impactful. But I digress. But I just
Well, that's okay. You all, one of the challenges that we did here, encouraged us to go out and do some form of exercise that was not gym related. So before Crystal was killed, we had the privilege to go hiking with her, which was, oh my gosh, I still have pictures of that on my phone.
Yeah.
Can't remember
I
who all
remember.
was there, but some of, I mostly do, but I'm not going to go into that. But we hiked and hiked. It was a gorgeous day in the woods, and laughed. I mean, I got to laugh and spend a day with her I never would have spent. So you asked me why I felt like I wanted to go search.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
As a mom, I got to meet Crystal's mom, and can't even let my mind go there with what she must have been going through.
And it's
How
still
could you
go-
not
and it's
want to
still
help
going
her
through.
find her,
Yeah.
right? Help her at least find her daughter and get her buried. And, Crystal meant so much to all of us, and,
Sure.
I could, so I wanted to. Wanted to find her.
Well, it was very special watching that whole thing transpire with you, and just your unrelentless kind of mentality towards we are going to find her, and you connecting with the K9 units and leading a lot of the searches. And I went down with Chris, and I remember just combing through the forest, and it's like it kind of hits you in waves, and it's like, wow, this is what we're doing right now.
Right, it makes it really real. It's not a story.
It really was.
It's
So obviously I hope a lot of people in life never have to experience something like that, but you definitely need a community of people around you to get through that. So I know it was very tough on all the members, but I just want to kind of commend you for all of your efforts with that. And
I think I need that, but
so
I've stuck with the search and rescue.
Yeah.
It really hit a nerve with me to the point where once Crystal and Bobby were found, I still go do search and rescue.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. So.
I've even been in the last 6 months. So and the people that we did dog search with, canine search with, she got a grant for a boat, and Emmett and I went out and we're training on how to drive a boat, and because her dogs do underwater search and rescue too. So
very cool.
And retrieval. So it's interesting in a creepy way to most people, but
well, again,
it really helps people. It truly
absolutely.
helps people.
You're providing
There you go.
a service that not a lot of people are willing to take the time to do.
Yeah, and it's not just looking for people who've died. They do a lot of live rescues, people who get lost, Alzheimer's patients.
Yeah.
Means really happy endings.
Yeah.
So it can be a really positive thing.
It's positive nonetheless. I mean, because you are bringing some closure to people,
Right.
Regardless of said situation. So, but to tie a bow on everything that happened with her. Obviously, she was a very special part of the community. Anyone who knew her, even though she was quiet and reserved, she was just someone who all she wanted to do was just improve on herself. She didn't have a mean bone in her body, and just constantly trying to improve her, even with limitations she had physically.
And she was an incredibly hard worker.
Yeah, she was
In the gym and out of the gym.
Oh yeah.
absolutely. I agree. So moving to maybe some more positive things. So I know that you've taken a job down in Lexington, so you're kind of traveling there. So Joe's traveling, you're traveling.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's
We're empty nesters now, so why not?
There you go. So
Yeah.
what kind of stuff driving down in Lexington? what's going on with that position?
So it's the second time I've worked. It's our church.
Okay.
And we've been there 20 years. We're like founding members of the church. I was the first administrative assistant, parish administrator basically there before we moved to North Carolina. And my boss called me back and said, I know it's not fair to ask you to commute, but you want to come down 3 days a week? And I said, sure. It was the best job I ever had. Loved it. So I'm glad to be back, except I hate the drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Hate the drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long one.
It is.
It's a long one. How do you pass time in the car?
Podcasts.
Podcasts?
Mostly podcasts.
You have, outside of ours, obviously, it's up on the list.
No, I listen to ours. I listen
but-
to Stuff You Should Know.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love that.
That's a good one.
And then the Serial podcast.
Serial.
Some true crime stuff.
I'll
That's
give,
mine.
I'll give you a couple that you'll
good.
love. Yeah.
Yeah, Becca's given me a few.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Some definitely some good stuff to kind of pass the time. It's funny, we Laura and I listened to one on the way back from Buffalo, and it was like 24 episode series, and it was like we got through like 12 episodes. It was still like, all right, we're meal prepping and listening to episodes. as we
Like
go.
before you know it, you're where you're going. 'cause
Exactly.
Time goes by quickly.
Definitely
Only so
passes
much
the
music
time.
I can listen to in the car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. You can't sing at the top of your lungs for like 12
No,
hours
I'd be
straight.
hoarse all the time. Yeah.
There you go. So I know you've struggled with a couple some issues with your neck and things like that.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of maybe talk to people. We've talked a lot about your life and things like that. We touched on the gym in a community sense, but as far as fitness and health goes, what has what we do here kind of done for you?
Well, okay.
I know you talked about being a runner and like I'm just scared to lift weights, and obviously that
Right.
we're way past that now.
Yeah, we're way
You know.
past that now. So it's been okay. Well, let me back up here. It's been a challenging health few years for our whole family.
Sure.
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Joe was also in here training with Chris Lummel,
Yep.
which caused some symptoms in him, which uncovered a very bad, life-threatening thing. So that was positive. You know, he ended up having quadruple bypass surgery, and his carotid artery was 90% blocked. So he wouldn't have found that if he hadn't come in here and
Right.
started working out.
Pretty nuts.
So, you know, good can come out of, you know, bad. For me, I went through, I was athletic as a kid, and then I think I mentioned I'm an ex-smoker. So I smoked through high school and college in horrible shape, let go of all fitness. Got pregnant with my son and put cigarettes down and never picked him up again. I was 30 years old when I had him. So I'm now, 21 years, 22 years smoke-free. And my come to Jesus moment was, Emmett was probably 5, 6, something like that. And I went to my doctor. I'd always been thin, athletic. And he said, "You're fat. You need to lose weight." Not words I had ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I got to do something. So that's when I started running. And I remember the first time I went out running, and I was, we do 200, 400 meter, whatever. I probably went 200 meters and started crying.
Oof.
It hurt. I was like, I can't do this. But it was just, put one foot in front of the other.
I was going to ask, well, what made you kind of keep going? Because here's the thing: we see so many people just with. I was actually talking to Melissa this morning, Barbell Club. Why, we have struggled with people like committing to like, I'm going to do a weightlifting meet.
Right.
She's like, I don't understand why people train so much and not want to test themselves. And it basically, we got into a discussion about the fear of failure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, if I do this, I might fail. And it's like, so for you to say, I cried and I wanted to stop and then I just kept going, again, you obviously passed that along to Emmett. Like, that came from somewhere, So what in your mind made you say, I have to do this?
Because I did not like myself. It wasn't
And
me.
you knew you can
I
change.
lost my identity. That's what
Yeah.
I felt like.
Right. And you didn't have to accept that reality.
I did not have to accept that reality. I thought, I don't like what I see in the mirror. I don't like what this says about who I am and where my priorities are. I wanted to get that back.
Right. Like you had a value system, and this was not
Right.
aligning.
And it was
I'm gonna-
not aligning with it. And
I'm going to take that clip
yeah.
of video and we're just going to play it on the front screen. Just like, you do not have to accept your reality.
Yeah.
You absolutely don't.
And I thought, I can't believe how hard this is. But then I thought, how many years did I take to get in this shape?
Right.
It is not going to change
it is
overnight.
Perspective.
It's perspective. It is perspective of where you are, what it took to get there. So many people have such short-term perspective that it's impossible for them to realize how much it might take to get somewhere. You know, we have such a, you know, as humans, like we're not very good at like delineating large amounts of time and effort. Like, you know, you think back of like, just to give like a history example, like how long the pyramids have been there, and then how long the dinosaurs were before that. It's like we can't step far enough back to really realize what that looks like. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Like people think that everything should be, well, I've been doing this for 3 months. I don't understand why.
Oh, I ate well for 3 days. Why do I still have a muffin top? You know, it's like, no, it's not
the
going to.
saying is they overestimate what you can do in a year, you underestimate what you can do in 10.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like they constantly like, I can, you know, go from 300 to 500 pounds on this. But it's like, well, maybe not in a year, but if you stick with it, you know.
And then, you know, I started discovering changes just in my capacity once I started doing CrossFit here. And like, here's a prime example. So I was a runner, ran 1 half marathon. I did the pig when I got here. Quit running when I realized that CrossFit was what I wanted to do, but decided after my mom died of heart disease that I wanted to run the Heart Mini down in Cincinnati. I was just going to CrossFit classes, did not train one day, and went and ran 9 miles straight without stopping.
It's weird, right?
It is weird.
You
how
don't
it
have
works.
to. You don't have to run crazy amounts of long distance when the metabolic capacity is already there.
All right. So I thought, and then I remember testing the mile or whatever, and I know what pace I ran, and I remember running it here and going, oh, I just knocked a minute off of my pace.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you start creating this. Just I've said it before. This inventory of wins. And then that can snowball. It's just like momentum in a sporting event, right? It's like, oh, this team's got the momentum. Well, look out. And that's essentially what you're doing every day when you come and surround yourself with a group of positive people.
Right. And one thing I want to attribute to you guys as coaches, owners, whatever, is this. It's easy to come in and compare yourself to somebody who's lifting, 50 pounds more than you are as a female and going, gosh, I want to be able to do that or whatever. But you will always make us focus on compare yourself to yourself and where you want to be. Don't compare yourself to everyone around you. I
always like to give the example of like pick the top 10 people who came in the CrossFit Games. And like, you can compare yourself to them? And the obvious answer is no. Why would I do that? And like, well, then why would you compare yourself to the person in your class? It doesn't make sense.
All you're going to do is feel bad about yourself when you could go, oh, but a year ago, it was hard to pick up a 35-pound empty bar.
Exactly. And again, it's all about perspective because people don't, when you compare yourself to XYZ person because, they lift more than I do or they beat me in XYZ workout. And it's like, okay, take a step back. What's their work life like? What's their home life like? Do they travel to Lexington? Yeah. Every week.
Even on a deeper level, it's just
spend 3 years at Children's Hospital and still get up and go work out. At least I'm here. I walked in the door. I'd have to remind myself of that when I felt like failure was how I wanted to define it.
%. And then you start to realize what's actually important too, because again, people get very wrapped up in what numbers they're producing and what their score might be on a workout and things like that. And again, I don't want to say that what we're doing isn't important, but what we're doing is not the most important thing. It shouldn't be.
Right.
And again, you can just look at more sciencey things like genetics. It's like, again, the guy that won the CrossFit Games, Matt Frazier, both of his parents were Olympians.
Yeah.
Something there.
They were Olympian. So it's just, again, it's a million different things that you can get caught up into, training age, all these different variables that play into training, how you sleep, whatever it is. But you bring up it's a tension point with us, with clients, is why don't I have a pull-up yet? She's got a pull-up, I don't. We started at the same time, we are the same weight, we're the same age, we have the same hair color, we have the, all these things, and it looks like the answer should be obvious, but it's always complex. I mean, by now with modern, everything, this, that, and the other thing, we should understand that we are very complex beings. And literally we're discovering things as recently as like yesterday that like spending X amount of time on your phone before you go to bed suppresses serotonin, which decreases REM sleep. So it's like,
right.
I don't know how much time do you spend.
Yeah.
You know, so we can do the 100 question test, but at the end of the day, it's like you just said, hey, whenever I started, I was here. And you know what? Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations with yourself and understand, like, you know what? Maybe I haven't been putting in as much effort as I can.
Right.
And maybe that's...
Just own it.
You know,
Yeah.
Own it. Own it. It's like, hey, I didn't study for the test. I failed.
Yeah, because I didn't study. Right.
You know, so...
Well, I've had to take a humbling step back here, too, with injuries, like you said, Jarrett. And a year and 2 months ago, I had a massive operation that was supposed to be outpatient and ended up 3 days in hospital with a blood transfusion, and it knocked
setback.
me. Yeah, it was a small setback. And within 6 weeks, I got cleared to come back in here. Whatever I could do. But, you know, right now I'm taken off of weights altogether because I have disc issues. And hopefully it's temporary, but if not, I'm gonna have to come up with a plan. But it'll be here. It'll be something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So to deal with
kind of going in that direction. What is next for you on the goal list? I know you seem like you're somewhat goal driven. So.
Truly, I want so badly to get back into CrossFit class.
Yeah.
I'm doing personal training with Chris, which I love, and it's fantastic. And I will probably stick with that to some degree.
But again, it's not.
I like
it's
the
not
one-on-one, but I
community.
miss the community. I actually miss barbells. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah.
But
you're going to be big and bulky, Sarah.
I want to pick
get
one
so
up.
big and bulky if you touch a barbell.
Yeah, I know. I've heard.
So what about for maybe Joe and Emmett and the family? Kind of maybe some long-term goals for you guys. Obviously, Emmett's on a kind of flying path. Pun intended, flying path to being a pilot.
Yeah. It's fun to watch that, I tell you, the milestones he's going through. So, we're just sort of going to stay in this area. I'm done with suburban neighborhood. Don't need, the place. We want to move, I think.
Got a great space up here if you guys want to renovate.
Perfect. We'll renovate. It's my own HGTV show. I'd like to maybe buy some farmland in Dry Ridge, which is still close enough to get here,
right?
But gets me closer to work.
Sure.
By 20 minutes. So I can deal with that.
That's a in between.
Oh yeah. And just figuring life out. I mean, Emmett's probably going to be traveling. Tell him where he's going to live.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll get based out of CVG.
Oh yeah.
It'll depend on where he gets hired, right?
Yep. They live quite the literally jet setter lifestyle as far as like you're living out of your suitcase for quite a bit of the
But
year.
he likes to travel, and he's happy when he's in an airplane, so that works for him.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I'm more of a homebody. So other than that, goals, just to keep going. I'm turning 51 here in 10 days, and it's hard to believe that I've gotten to that point.
Great.
If you had told me that I'd be at a CrossFit gym at 51 years old, I'd have laughed. But
because it's only for like the 20-somethings.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
Because there's no way the rest of us could get something out of it. So.
I listened to a podcast the other day, and there was a guy. There wasn't a CrossFit-based podcast, but one guy was a fitness expert, and they asked him like, "What do you think of CrossFit?" And he's like, "Well, it's for the 18 to 24-year-olds, and my body, like I think he might have been in his 40s. He's like, my body just can't take that style of training." And it's just always fun.
Yeah, not buying it.
It's funny because again we've talked about it on here too, where it's like I personally will probably never do a pistol again. I have no reason to. Now maybe you have those small like pistols are for 18 to 24-year-olds.
Right.
I can
do
Bulgarian split squats and get the same benefit out of it, and it doesn't bother me. Again, it's you have to be cognizant and you have to have the wherewithal to know that like this is where I'm at. And I can still get a kick-ass workout.
That's right.
And not have to be balls out every single day.
Yeah, like my favorite thing is flipping up on the wall and working on handstand push-ups.
Right.
I may never get to do that again because of the discs in my neck.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
probably
I'll miss it, but
err on the side of caution. I'm going to advise you. Not a
I
doctor,
know
but
I don't do that
Yeah.
anymore. I listen to
As your
Dr.
trainer.
Aaron.
As your-
Yeah. So
training.
you're right. But also, I'll probably never do those again. But I can find plenty to do in here.
Yeah. Well, cool. Again, if you've listened before, we always like to end with that very simple but complex question of your definition of success. And obviously, I'm excited to hear yours because you've been, through family stuff, through personal stuff. You guys have been through a lot. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
It's definitely changed. I used to have this idea of fitness and success being much more competitive than I feel about it now with my age and setbacks that I've had. But for me at this point, I'd really have to go with I want to be able to maintain the capabilities that I have now.
Yeah.
Sharpen. Yeah.
No, it's really
whatever those are and whatever they're going to be, whatever I've got to work with, I want to maintain that to the best of my ability.
Right.
And again, staving off the inevitable. That's what we always were trying to do, right?
Right. Because I know people my age who couldn't drop into a squat and
or
talk
there's
about
people who can't walk from their car to their
right.
To the front of a store.
Right.
They're not much older than I am, regardless of whatever age you are. I mean, it's like it's an epidemic. They're talking about within the next 10 to 15 years, over half of our population. We're at 1/3. We're at 1/3 of our population being overweight and obese. They're talking about 50% of our population being overweight.
It's scary.
And obese.
It's really scary.
Yeah, we were just at a museum over the weekend, and they had. It's like as soon as you walk in, the first thing that I saw was rentals for wheelchairs and rascals, scooters to get through like the museum.
You got to walk a mile
rough.
today.
I mean,
Can't do it.
I'm gonna take a rascal.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Hopefully it wasn't scary as you thought it was going to be.
Nah, it's just
You're
talking.
great.
It's just
You're
talking to
great.
you guys, just like being in class.
Yeah. So, again, thank you, Sarah, for coming on today. And thank you all for listening to Triumph Every Day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and everywhere your favorite podcasts are found. You can find us on TriumphStrength.net, on Instagram at Triumph Strength, and Facebook at facebook.com/TriumphStrength. See you guys next week.